Welcome everyone to the showdown between the Vampire Coast, who shall be led by Luther Harkin. And today, guys, we face off against the Vampire Counts, who shall be led by, I believe, a von Karstein Vampire Lord. If memory serves, he was indeed riding a Hellsteed, so going to be flying around the sky, cackling, maybe summoning Vargulfs, but more importantly, he has access to the Storm of the Night, which is an insanely good ability. Now, as far as my army goes, there's a couple ways to play against Vampire Counts, but the more probably common way is honestly just to box up and use like a bunch of, monstrous units and go fisticuffs, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. So here in the front, it's going to be deckhand mobs. Obviously not much of a surprise there, and we're not going to be going for a ground monster mash. Rather, we do have a pretty good air force in the form of Luther Harkin plus another Terrorgeist. And Luther is just such a monster of a duelist. Like, he can go fisticuffs with Vampire Lords pretty easily, and when you put him with another Terrorgeist plus some Fellbats to kind of tar pit their forces, man, you can get some seriously good value. So we have Luther, we have a Terrorgeist, we have a couple guns in the ground, the Black Spot, as well as a Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mob here. One group of Depth Guard just to give some, punch and sustainability to my ground force, because Depth Guard are great at killing chaff and Crypt Ghouls and things like that. And a lot of times Vampire Counts players against the Vampire Coast will bring Crypt Ghouls, because Crypt Ghouls are very proficient at killing Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs. So Depth Guard are here. In the back, we actually have two cannons as well. So Carronade here, Carronade here. I kind of expect to lose these, to be honest. It's going to be super hard to defend them, but it does kind of put a bit of a clock on my opponent here. So we'll see how that goes. And now for my opponent's force, in the front line, it's going to be Zombie Nation all the way across the front, but he also has a bunch of Crypt Ghouls kind of mixed in. So Crypt Ghouls here, two over here, one here, and then one on the far side as well. So just in case I was like kind of caddied right here, he would be able to get a really good flank really quickly. Now for his cav, he's got Black Knights. I believe he has one group of Blood Knights, so the elite anti-large unit. Pretty good against, Morngulls and the mighty Bloated Boys. Probably not so good against Bloated Corpses because they would blow up and do a ton of damage, but good against Morngulls, decent against Crabs with their bonus first large and their charge bonus. Just a solid unit for sure. On the far side, more Black Knights. He does also have some Vargeists. In the sky, he does have the von Karstein Vampire Lord. So he actually does have regular zombie summons as well as the Vargulf summon as well. But really the huge thing about the von Karstein Vampire Lord, like I mentioned before, is the dreaded Storm of the Night. So it does a ton of damage. It's basically like a free Tempest, and it has 3 charges as well. So in this Air Force fight, very, very important for sure. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let's get this show on the road and have some fun. So firstly, my cannons are shooting into the Black Knights here. I did not see he had Blood Knights initially. I just kind of looked at the 2 cav on the sides and assumed that they were all Black Knights. So I should have been shooting at the Blood Knights, but still getting some really good damage here. And if we can kill a Black Knight with a cannon here, it's going to be a relatively equal trade. Now, in the meantime, Luther Harkin and the Deathreek Terrorgeist are going to be kind of harrying in the skies here. I do have the advantage of having the pistols, which is quite useful. So we can get some really good pistol attacks here against the Terror Gooses and things like that. My gun line is going to be focusing a little bit on the Crypt Ghouls, getting some decent saturating fire on the approach here. And our other guns will be turning here in the center and shooting at these Crypt Ghouls because there's an opening here. So basically, I kind of delay the main fight, use my cannons to take out the Black Knights. I use Taunt on these guys to slow them down, and now my guns are just going to be opening up on these little naked golems here as they run in, and we're getting good damage. And from there, the Vampire Fleet Captain with some summons should be able to win that fight easily. Now up in the sky, Luther and company just kind of screening, just delaying the fight for as long as I can because, again, I do have the advantage of the artillery pieces. Some of the Vargeists, unfortunately, do land on the gunnery mobs, which is fine. They're only 300 gold, and I really don't mind losing a couple of these guys to the Vargeist. And Luther and the Deathshriek Terrorgeist are going to be jumping in as well to potentially do some damage. Now here I was getting attacked from 2 sides, and I decided to sacrifice this Carronade to send the Halberds over here, but in the end, it was a pretty big mistake. I ended up just losing both of those, so a little bit of a scary situation. However, a lot of good trades. We've already taken out a couple Crypt Ghouls. Depth Guard will massacre those guys. And here you can see the Vargeists are taking some work, but he does actually land at the other Terrorgeist here, which is now an opportunity for a really good 2v1. So Luther and my Goose are going to be going 2v1 at the cost of basically losing my cannons in the back. I opted not to defend them. I felt like I had a better trade here. It wasn't the best thing in the world. So the Black Knights here are slightly fended off by the Halberds, but both of my Carronades are offline now. And here the Depth Guard are going to be just mulching through these Crypt Ghouls here. It's an absolute massacre, and they're going to take like no damage in return. They're basically a hard counter there. But really, in many ways, it will come down to the monster fight, and Luther Harkin was able to just massacre this Terror Goose here. My opponent brought a von Karstein Vampire Lord on a Hellsteed, so he doesn't have the fighting capability. Rather, he went for more of a wider build to shut down gun lines and things like that, and it did pay off for him in some respects. Now, the von Karstein Vampire Lord is going to be landing here, but he's kind of in the wrong neighborhood. He's not as powerful of a duelist, but it looks like he's actually going to be summoning a Vargulf. So summoning a monster as his Goose here just gets beaten down by Luther Harkin. The Vargulf will help for sure, but Luther, you can't really run from him too well. Even if the Goose got away, I could pull up as well and simply use my pistol to shoot it down. Now my Fellbats are able to tar pit his Fellbats, and now they're just occupying the Vargeist up in the sky, which is quite nice. And the von Karstein Vampire Lord and the Vargulf trying to get some damage on the Deathreek Terrorgeist, but Luther Harkin's got his blunderbuss here, and he's going to be hunting down this von Karstein Vampire Lord pretty hard. He is faster. He has 105 speed against Luther's 90, but if I get like a Hornswoggle or a Taunt or anything like that, we should be able to do really well. Up here in the sky, you can see we are able to get some good damage on the Vargeist. Storm of the Night is going down right now on Luther Harkin, which does a little bit of work, and it looks like he's going in for a charge, which is a very brazen move for sure. Luther is able to still move out of it, kind of. It's a slow, it's not a stare, so it has a pretty big slow and does damage, but the guys up in the sky really getting pounded. Now, as far as the balance of power goes, it is a little bit my favor. If we look around the battlefield, you can see there are Crypt Ghouls winning their respective fights, and you can see how damn well they perform against zombies, but the fact that I was able to focus them down with guns and get some really good isolations with the Depth Guard, who are just going deep on these guys. I mean, just straight up chopping them to pieces. I get about 55 leadership on these guys. Nice Blood Knight charge coming in. Blood Knights here up to 6 or 7 kills, so it looks like they were having a little bit of trouble finding a home. So I do get my Death Shriek Terrorgeist attacking here, which seems a little bit risky because they're designed to kill such things, but since they're not on the charge, I figured I could get some picks. Depth Guard, of course, have good armor and sustained combat. My opponent trying to get the Von Karstein gooning going here, but I'll show him the meaning of gooning as Luther Harkin comes in for a final pit fight here. Fellbats used in the back to rear charge those guys and trap in the Von Karstein Vampire Lord. The Blood Knights are doing well, but we summon right on top of them. So anytime you're fighting cab units like this in a big kind of a blob fight, it's really powerful to summon on top of them with like zombies and things like that, because the Blood Knights will then spend most of their attacks attacking the nearby zombies rather than going after high value assets. So on the ground, Luther Harkin and company still going after the caster. I think the Von Karstein Vampire Lord is able to just barely squeak away. Blood Knights are taking steady damage, so I do pull my goose up in the sky, so the Death Shriek Terrorgeist is going to be going about face here, and he is going to be shooting his breath attack right into those guys. Takes out 3 or 4 models, does some really good HP damage, and you can see the bounce of power is ebbing even more and more into the favor of the Vampire Coast here as the Von Karstein Vampire Lord pulls up in the sky. Some ghouls on the far side still doing really well, and I think my opponent was onto something quite well as it pertains to the ghouls, but you got to be careful. A lot of times Vampire Coast will contest the airs like the sky like this with Luther plus another Terrorgeist, and if you don't have the forces to match it, it can be really punishing against Vampire counts, especially if they bring like deck droppers and things like that. So here we are able to take the Von Karstein Vampire Lord. He's in a little bit of trouble, but he's still putting up a good fight against Luther. 3,100 to 21, but we do also have some really good abilities. Invocation and Taunt going down, but Von Hell's Dance Kebab, as well as the Charmed Shield giving him ward save, and Missile Parry potentially against the pistol shots from Luther, but there comes a big blow. Luther's healing, and that's going to be all she wrote for the Vampire counts. As the Flying Goon Squad is able to persevere and chase down the Von Karstein Vampire Lord, he's going to cackle till his last moment as he plunges to the earth. And it has a nice little thud and bounce there. So, well played. It was a fun one. Really sloppy playing my cannons. I kind of like thought I would lose them. Like when I saw his army, I was like, he has too much with the Fellbats and the Black Knights and things like that. I only had like 1 or 2 halberds back there to really defend. But nonetheless, I should have pulled something from the front line, like and just stood right on top of the cannons. I basically used these guys to screen out the Knights, but I should have had them right on top of the Carronades at the very least. That was very sloppy. But nonetheless, it was a good kind of showcase of the build. Dominate the skies with Luther and a Terrorgeist, because Luther is going to be able to deal with Zombie Dragon Lords pretty well with his kite and his pistol play as well. So with that, with some Fellbats, I think is quite strong. A couple things I might change. I'd probably honestly, in retrospect, just cut the Carronades and get Jet Droppers and just go all in on the Air Force. What you do is you keep the black spot, you cut the 2 Carronades, you cut the Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mob. As a matter of fact, I'll show you guys what I would change if you want to go for Air Force dominance. Well played to my opponent, Phantom M. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the huge ghoul horde coming, and now we're going to take a look at the build, how I would improve it. Because again, the cannons are a liability to protect, and if you're already investing so much in your Air Force, like why not just capitalize further on that, right? So you get Luther with his Pippi Longstockings operation going on here. As far as this, Magic Void is good there, I think. Power Siphon is okay, but you can probably cut that. But Magic Void actually is good against Spirit Leeches and things like that. So for the ground force, we just get some Zombos. Zombie. 1 group of Depth Guard just as like an anchor piece. We can probably get a couple halberds as well. But the ghouls really do mulch your stuff, so you gotta have some Depth Guard, I think, to chop through them. Now we go for the Air Force. We probably get the handguns to deal with some of the armor. You can go for the lower variant ones as well, the cheapo ones. We'll get you. We'll get some Fellbats. I have some pretty solid money, but I always like when I get Luther, I assume he has like magic, like all the other Vampire Lords often do. So you got to make sure you actually bring it. So here we have Luther. We have the Goose. We have 2 Fellbats. We probably 2 of the handguns. I think is going to be nice against like the armored lords and things like that. The better range is also good, but I think we need a little bit more to secure the aerial battle. Now, as far as doing that goes, you could probably just get another Fellbat. That's going to be enough. I don't see Vampire counts bringing more than like 3 Fellbats against you. And from there, you should be able to protect. And then you can cut this and just get the black spot on the ground. Oh, I'm like 2 gold off. Curse the Baggins. We want that. I mean, those abilities are all so damn good. So we might just have to cut something on Luther, which is unfortunate. Or we could just cut 1 halberd. Get another standard Zombo. Yeah, that's probably fine, to be honest. And then we can get the black spot, which is good. And if your opponent attacks it with Cav, it has anti-large and AP. I feel like a build like this is pretty good for the Air Force dominance. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this Vampire Coast versus Vampire Count game. Certainly always a good time, that matchup. I like it quite a bit from a lore perspective as well. And on that note, guys, we'll see you next time. Take care.